Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there's no such thing as coincidences or mistakes, and we are here to share our life experience on that with you. My name is Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. Sue Doyle.
Hi,
So
girlies. Kristen Longmore, name
we,
back to my original name, or not my original name, my second original name. So,
yes, we have a new name,
a new
and
old name.
I know it's so funny because I've been doing a lot of content for my website. I'm not from, well, it's my website, but also for the speaking thing and my book. And I go by Deb Lawless Miller. And it's so irritating. Like I wish I thought ahead to go by DLM, like DLM author or whatever, like instead of putting my entire name out there, but had to do it that way because I'm known to some people under Lawless and others under Miller. So I had to kind of, but it's just a stupidly long, inconvenient name.
Is
But
that your name? It's not Deborah Jean Miller. It's Deborah Lawless Miller. What's your legal
yeah,
name?
well, my legal name is Deborah Jean Miller,
Okay.
but my author name is Deborah Lawless or Deb Lawless Miller. And that again
Well,
was
which
just,
makes sense because I mean that's why you put your maiden name on your social media so people from
that's
who
right.
didn't know you as Miller know you. And I mean, I did the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
and if I had I probably would have gone back to Lawless, but because Hunter being an only child and him being a Miller, I kept Miller, which is fine. A name is a name. It doesn't really,
Yeah.
I'm not fussy about it.
Yeah.
If I was my name wouldn't be Deb or
I
Debbie
remember
or
when I was
Deborah.
getting divorced from my kid's dad, I literally had to ask, like the judge asked him if I could keep
I
the
remember
last
you
name.
saying that. That's insane.
I was like, how fucking humiliating is that? But
God.
it was
The
weird.
judge asked Stephen if
Stephen, if I
you,
could keep the last name,
His name.
oh,
his last name. And I didn't
is it
even think
okay if
about
she
going
keeps
back to,
that? Like it was like
yeah,
that, like
like,
is
yeah, basically it's like his name.
yeah.
Whatever,
And like,
dude.
can I still have it after divorcing? I mean, first of all, never even thought about that being a thing or a
Yeah,
question.
No.
I
Yeah.
know.
Um, Obviously I wanted to keep it because I wanted the same last name as my kids while they were still, underneath my watch, my
Yeah.
parental watch, which
Well,
is a great segue
Uh-huh. Here we
into
go.
what we want to talk about today.
Amen, sister.
So,
it's yeah, it's
for the,
interesting. We're all divorced.
right? For
Yeah,
the
well, I had to
listener,
ask my ex-husband.
did you?
I'm sorry. I didn't ask him. I said, well, I did. I said, listen, don't ask a lot of questions. I want to match the kid's last name. I was a
Don't
little
ask a
impulsive
lot of questions.
changing my name back to Dean. And
Yeah.
he goes, I don't care what you do, Kristen. He goes, quite frankly, I forgot you changed it back. So whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead, Sue. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I get that. Um, so for the listener, um, Kristen brought a word, two words into a text thread, and Debbie and I, both of us, didn't really know what it meant. I think it's sort of a new sort of catchphrase called open nesting. Did I get it
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Open
That's from my
nesting, which
sister-in-law.
was
Yeah.
so Deb's like, well, what the fuck is open nesting? And I was like, and I didn't really understand it other than I kind of thought like, well, maybe it's when like your kids come back or something, or they don't leave, but whatever. So anyway, we were having a little discussion before we hit the record button a few minutes ago. And so Kristen did explain, and you can explain it to the audience, like open nesting is like basically either keeping the door open or having your adult children come back to live with you. Or does it also refer to kids who never leave, like never, never.
Yeah.
Never fucking leave. No,
They never
never
No,
locked.
leave. Like,
I think
you
it's
know what I
for kids
mean?
to come back. It's like an open door policy, you
So
know.
would open nesting be like when your kids came back from college, or is it more when they're a little older than that?
I think it's both, and thanks to my sister-in-law for this topic idea because her son, my oldest nephew, just came back from college. They have another child that's going to be a junior in high school this year, and we were talking about what my oldest nephew's plans were for the future, for the summer, blah blah blah. And she said, I heard this great term called open nesting. And I said, kind of what Deb said, what does that mean? Does it mean what I think it means? And she said, basically, it's the door is open for the kids, yes, to come back from college, to get, their feet underneath them or whatever before they fly out of the nest again. Let's face it, things are not as they were in the 60s and 70s. You can't afford to really live on your own without a roommate now. You have to have a second roommate or a third roommate or whatever. But and then I use the example of my son who moved out last year with his girlfriend and a friend, subsequently broke up with his girlfriend. They had their own condo, everything. And then he moved back here and has lived with me ever since. And I have parameters. Like he pays me rent, he pays his own car insurance, he pays his own cell phone bill. I pay for food, but if I'm paying for a lot of food, I charge him back for that. I don't I don't support him. I give him a break. He helps me out. Ultimately, I don't want him here forever and ever because I think that would be detrimental to his development. But similar situation, my daughter had a couple years ago, had an incident where she was potentially going to come back here and live with me. I set up some boundaries and parameters, and she didn't want to follow them, so she didn't come home. But I think the door is open to my children, but I have certain requirements. You can't just come in here and it's party time. So
Yeah.
I think that's what, everybody's different.
Do you think there's levels of open nesting? So like, so you have parameters where somebody else will be like, oh, just come in, we'll pay for everything, do whatever the hell you want. Like, oh, we don't care.
Right.
Or you know what I mean? Like
That
how
scares
would,
me. That's not good for,
It's not good.
I don't feel that
well, it's not good
that's
for
very
anybody,
good.
right?
Yeah.
And
Like,
so I
Deb,
was
what is
saying,
Hunter like? If you don't mind, like, would you share a little bit about Hunter's situation and what he
Yeah.
does with George and Sandy? Like, what are his expectations and stuff?
Yeah. So after college, he moved to LA with my nephew. So we had a roommate there. He was there for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And that was during COVID. So he moved. I said to him, at this point, I was living on Longboat Key. Kevin and I were living on Longboat Key. My parents are living in Lakewood Ranch, which is part of Sarasota. So we were in the same county. And I said to Hunter, I said, if you come back from LA, you're going to go where there's family because I needed him to be around family. And I said, so either Connecticut, where your dad's parents are and cousins and stuff, or you're coming to Florida. And he decided to come to Florida. And I said, well, you're going to have to live with Grandma and Papa because we don't have space for you here. And we don't like, we have a tiny little condo that is on an island. So it's not convenient to get to and from. Traffic is insane. But of course, I was going to be like, if you want to come here until you can find your own place, but it would have been so overcrowded just with the three of us. So, but my parents have a house. And they were like, just have him come stay with us. We would love to have him. Well, he went there for a couple months and he ended up going back to school, meeting a girl. So within 6 months, he had moved out of my parents, in with the girlfriend, and they were together for 2 years. And then they broke up and he went back to my parents' house. So, and that's where he has been because he's got a full-time job and he does well, but the cost of living here is disgusting. Um, he, my parents ended up really needing him there anyways, because my mother was very ill at the time and my dad needed the support and my mom needed help, whatever. It just worked out better. But he pays his own way with everything, including he'll pay for, he usually does his own grocery shopping and stuff like that. But it ended up being a very convenient way for all of them to live because they count on Hunter to do things for them. Hunter has a dog. When he's at work, my parents, are there for the dog and stuff like that. Now, does he want to be there full time forever? Absolutely not. Like he's
Right.
like, how am I supposed to date somebody I'm living with my grandparents? And I'm
Oh,
like, I know, but you know what? So many
okay.
people are back at home or they're living with roommates.
Yeah.
And so anyways, listen, I'm not one to say, oh, sorry, you're up Schitt's Creek, go figure it out for yourself. That's just not how I would ever be. But I do know people. It's a different situation for me too. And Sue, you're kind of in the same situation. Like we now have other people in our lives that aren't the parent or aren't the father
Right.
to our children.
Right.
Right.
And they might have other kids and it becomes really messy. And I know people that they're in their second marriages, their kids are grown, and they are 100% my husband comes first now, their new husband. And so if my kids need to come home, they're going to have to figure it out. No, they're not coming here. I have this new life with this new husband. My children are adults. They need to figure out. And then I have another other friends who are remarried and they're like, oh no, my kids come first 100% all the time, even though they're adult children. And the husband's not too thrilled about that. But that's how what's what she believes, and that's what her feelings are. Um, I would probably be a little bit in the middle, like, okay, this is not the best situation for you to move into, but I want you here until you can get your feet on the ground, but you got 2 months or whatever, something like
Exactly.
that.
Hmm.
But also, and I think this makes a huge difference too. If you're married to the father of your children and you're living in the house that the kids grew up in, and a lot of people are still in the houses that they raise their children in, I see it being more like, yes, this is always your home. You are always welcome to come. My situation is not like that. We have moved out of the place that I raised Hunter. We've lived in a couple different places. Hunter has been out on his own. And so it's not like he'd be coming back to his home. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he's not
Right.
it's not, and I think that makes a big difference too. Like if you're still living in the house that they grew up in, that feels like home to them. I don't think my condo feels like home to Hunter.
Farmington Woods or whatever.
Or no,
Well,
the one that we're living in now.
you do bring up an interesting point because I'm sort of in this, well, I think we're all in the same boat that we don't live in the homes that we raised our kids in. So,
Right, right,
and I don't even, I don't, none of us even live in the same town
Right.
or state, maybe not even state, that we raised
yeah,
our kids in. So, yeah, when my kids come to visit, they are coming to visit. They're not coming, quote unquote, home.
right,
When I first divorced my kid's dad, I moved into Tyler was just had started college and I moved into a two-bedroom apartment, and I felt really bad. And I felt really bad that first summer when Tyler came home from school, that I didn't have like a designated bedroom for him. But subsequently, except for like after their freshman year in college, my kids never really came home. Like they found internships or jobs where were school because they had after first or second year had moved off campus, so they had apartments anyway, and they just um
Stayed there.
so yeah, so I don't know. I can't even really begin to wrap my head around if it would have been different, had we stayed married and you know, my ex-husband stayed in the house for a couple of years. Olivia never really went back. I think Tyler went there that first summer. I really don't have like steadfast, like if this happens to me, this is what's going to happen. But it's not comfortable. Like I find myself when my kids are home, and maybe it's because it's a short period of time, I go right back into mom mode where I
Oh
am
yeah.
doing all the laundry, the cooking, the dish,
Mhm.
everything. I would never dream of asking for my kids for rent or to pay for food. Never. If
Mm.
they had a car or something like that, I wouldn't absorb that. But, and that's my own hang up. I mean, when they come home, like they go home with a suitcase folded and clean like the Gap back, and if, they take the train or drive home, they have bags of food that I took out of the, sauce that I took out of the freezer and all these things and cookies and I would find myself right back. And I don't think to when they were like 11 and 12, and I don't think any of us would welcome that. Do you know what I'm
I think
saying? But I
that's
also
sweet,
don't
Sue.
know. I don't
I
know how
do.
I would be if like they brought people home.
Well, you're not, they're
What do you
just
mean if,
coming
wait a
to
minute, what do you mean
visit.
if they brought people
Okay,
home?
so our kids are living in an apartment, right? And they go
Yeah.
out on a date or whatever. They bring a
Oh,
guy or a girl
I
home and they
Yeah.
see.
sleep over and like, bye, have a nice, nice
Yeah,
to meet
no.
you, have a nice life. I don't know how I would be. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know
Yeah.
how I would handle house rules, so to speak. Because to be honest with you, I have not lived in the same house with both of my children since Tyler was 18 and Olivia was 16. They are now 31 and 28.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys the story of, so my son was in a very long-term relationship. He started dating his ex-girlfriend at 16 and they just broke up a year ago. So it was 5 years. She very quickly, she had a very dysfunctional, dangerous household situation in Winston, and we lived in New Hartford. And she moved in with us. And part of me was like, it was like a give back to
Hmm.
Lorraine, who had taken me in, my mother-in-law had taken me in, Steve and Marilyn had taken me in, like a give back to the
Hmm.
universe to take Victoria. And she lived with us here. But I'll tell you right now, she was very easy to lay down the rules with. She was easy to talk to. She was respectful, um, and she was kind. But I'll tell you right now, it would be very awkward when and if my son starts dating someone. There will be rule like we did it. It's okay with Victoria,
Okay, but
but
what about
we're
just
done.
not dating? Like, I mean, sometimes you go out on one date, you sleep with the person, then you never see them again. I mean,
Which
not
is
me, but
fun. Then you're going
kids
to do it
these
in the
days.
car like we
And
used
so it's like, how do
to.
you deal with that?
Well,
The other
I
thing
would
is are
think,
you going to be home for dinner? I don't know. And it's like no.
yeah,
So
We don't do dinner here together. We do our own thing,
yeah.
like
okay.
in the night. Yeah, but
And
anyway,
I would think that the kid wouldn't do that. like bring home.
True,
Aaron
probably.
wouldn't. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
True.
I
Our
mean,
kids
Very
wouldn't.
true.
I don't think Hunter has ever done that. That would be so
Hi,
bad.
Papa.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. Like,
yeah.
unless you're putting
That's
her
a whole new
out of the
level of
window,
walk of
please don't
shame in
do
the
that.
morning.
Exactly. Like, you
Sure.
find a place, either go to her place or just
Yeah.
find a place. But
So, but
Things
it's
yeah,
are
I
there.
get it. Like, so I am remarried and none of our kids ever lived here. This was a home we bought together as just adult married people.
Mhm.
Um, but
And they all had their own lives at that.
yeah,
Some
but
of them
I don't
were
know if I
married.
would really proclaim like what you guys were saying about friends of yours that my husband comes first. You know what I mean? And
No.
I don't think it's that I would not be ready to proclaim because, here's the other thing. Think about it this way. Like if we all stayed married to our kids' father, right? Excuse me, and you live a certain part of your marriage after they're grown and they've moved out and like you get into this different groove, right? From what people tell me,
Yeah.
never experienced it myself, but you kind of go back to like this time where you're a little freer and you don't have those, the
sure.
kid responsibilities and kind of like where we are, right? Where you're just a little freer.
I
And
remember a
then
woman
like
saying,
even your own kids coming back kind of cramps your style.
I had this woman say to me once, and I'm not going to say who she was, but it's exactly what you're just talking about, Sue. So her daughters had moved out, and one of them graduated college or something like that, and broke up with was with a boyfriend, and then broke up. Anyway, one of them was back home, and she said to me, like, I my we can't even like have sex because here's my adult daughter like right next door and it's very uncomfortable. Like she's a grown ass adult and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can
But right,
imagine
but like
that."
does she still think that she can knock once and open the door like she did when she was
Right.
12 or
Yeah.
not knock at all? You know what I'm saying? So I
No,
think for
I would
me,
say,
go ahead.
well, two things I want to say. One is if your adult children are living with you, they know what is happening in the bedroom next to them, and like
True.
they don't want to
Ugh.
see or hear that either. So, but all right, so I look
So
at
what do
it
you do?
like,
Wait for them to go out and sneak a quickie in? Like what do you
Yeah,
do?
that's what she
yeah,
was
or
saying they
like
would
if
do.
yeah, or like just at being the child, the adult child, like have some respect and know that like the bedroom
Yeah.
door is shut, go do something, or
Go away.
go away. Yeah, don't, so
Go
but
away.
here's the
Go
thing that I
away.
struggle with. My parents have been married for over 60 years. They have lived in several different places, okay? Which, believe it or not, has been very detrimental to me as a human being, that my
Oh,
parents never had roots anywhere. My dad would, after 5 years of living somewhere, he would get ants in his pants. He was ready for, and even if they moved within the same town or something, we were still moving. And so I never had that home base. Okay. And that
Hmm.
to this day, I yearn for a home base. Okay. But my parents, where wherever they have landed, I have always felt like that's my home because they've
oh,
always had made it in a way that, the door is always open. You're always welcome to come here. You always have a place to stay, no matter what. And so wherever their house is, I always feel like, oh, this is home because they're there. And
George and
so
Yeah.
I
Sandy,
don't
we
feel
love
like I've
them.
given that to Hunter, though. I feel like once Hunter left and I was bouncing around a little bit, like we've just ended up in these places that have not been convenient to have the door. And it's also been like Kevin is the type of person that he can't sit still either. So, even though we have a home, we're traveling a lot. There's not a routine happening there. With my parents, it's like there's a steady routine that I know when they're there, what's going on. And, it's like it just feels comfortable. And I don't know, maybe I'm doing a disservice to Hunter to not have that safety pad. Although he's
But
never,
here's
I
the
don't know if
thing,
he
like
really even cares,
providing a
but
safety pad and having your kids feel safe are two different things. Like I think my
Mm.
kids know. Like it's not ideal. They don't want to come live with me ever, right? But I think there's a safety in me helping them figure it out.
yeah,
Like, what's this going to look like? You know what I mean? If and when you ever get into trouble, you know, or, lose your job. That's what I mean by trouble, not like, anything major, but lose your job or can't pay the rent or whatever. Like, we would figure, why
Well, it's
I
so
are
don't
you
know.
funny.
laughing
I'm
at me?
just thinking of like, if you ever get in trouble, like incarcerated, I will
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah. I will figure it out.
We'll
We'll
figure it
figure it
out.
out. But I don't think that the universal blanket answer for my kids is for them to move back with me.
Mm,
No.
Do you know what I mean? Even though they feel safe in knowing that we will figure it out together. And it may include living here for a little bit
yeah,
or, me financially helping them if I am in a position to help them with a cap or a, a an end game, right?
yeah,
You know, um,
So do you
because
think
my
yeah,
that it's
kids do,
detrimental to like I'll use my kid as an example. I I often think, and we talk every so often, he's not in a financial situation position to move out on his own. He'd need a roommate. But
and
I
both
feel
my
like,
kids had roommates for years
yeah,
to be able to live.
to live on their own. I
Oh yeah.
feel like there'll be a
I mean, I think
point.
Tyler had a roommate till he was like 29.
I feel like there'll be a point, my daughter got married. I mean, she found her husband and they moved in together relatively quickly. So he was like a roommate to her, kind of like me and my ex-husband. We got together young and we supported each other financially. Like Aaron, I enjoy having him here. He helps me fix things around the house, but I don't want it to be detrimental. I mean, he's only 22, but
hmm
eventually it's going to be, if I'm looking at a 25-year-old here, I'm like,
yeah. I think right now, like Aaron is using this as a stepping stone, which is good as long as it remains a stepping stone for him.
exactly.
But most importantly, now is the time that he has the roof over his head, that he starts looking for a job that will afford him to be able to live on his own and not get into the whole comfort zone of working at the same place that he will never be able to afford to live on his own. Not
Right.
not to mention take care of a family. So it's like while you're
Right.
here, you're either going to re-enroll in school or get your degree or whatever, or
Yep.
find yourself a job where you can support yourself and eventually a family. Just
Exactly.
it's yeah, the detrimental part is allowing them to get comfortable in what they're doing and not taking advantage of the fact that they are in a safe space. Your son helping you out is amazing, but he can do that from when he lives somewhere else, come over
On
and
his own.
help you
Yeah.
with
Oh,
things.
right.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
have to be
Right.
living in the house with you
No,
to
no.
help you with shit. So
Listen, he was
that's
just gone for 5 days and, I missed him, but I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, I actually have an empty nest right now. Like, there
yeah,
was
yeah.
nobody,
Yeah.
it was really kind of nice. But,
But that's that's probably one of the boundaries that would be put on a kid living at home, like you can't, this isn't always going to be here for you. So you got to figure out a way to make the money
I think that's
to
a
pay
cut.
your
You know,
own.
you bring that up, Deb. That's like we talk every so often, but that's like, okay, it's check-in time. What are we,
Yeah.
Yeah. I
like
mean,
Yeah.
and you know,
switching?
yeah, I think that's healthy to just check in and say, you know, where are you at? What are you thinking? What are your aspirations? You know, I think I've always just been in a situation where I think it's unwritten that, I've always said, you guys can come here whenever you want. They don't think of where I live as home. They
Yeah.
don't think of where I live as desirable place to live based on where they want to be or where they
Hmm.
are, right? You know, um and so I think it's sort of we meet in the middle of I'm not saying come home, and they're saying we don't want to live there kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I've never been put in this situation where it's like, okay, you have to do this because you're drowning or
Yeah.
whatever,
Well, let me
you
ask you
know.
this. Okay. So you have a child that clearly needs some help financially, either to live on their own or with a roommate or whatever, live independently,
Hmm.
or come home and live with you. What are you going to do? Are you going to give them the money to help them? Or are you going to say you're going to need to come home and live here until you can save some money yourself or figure out your finances? Which choice would you make?
For me, it's always a hybrid. For me, it's like, okay, have you been living there and have you hit a speed, if you hit a little bump in the road and you just need a little help because, you didn't make commissions this month or is this like you have completely overdrawn, right? Like you went out there without thinking about all these things that could have come up kind of thing. Um, I would be the one who would say, okay, like I will float you for a couple of months,
Hmm.
but you need to show me that you're, living below your means or, you're trying or whatever. Um, and then, sort of the well has run dry. So you either need to figure something else out or come home.
Mm,
But here's my other thing. My kids have been dealing with a mother who has always had two and three jobs,
mm,
always, my entire life. If I have had a full-time job, I am teaching aerobics in the morning and at night. Full-time job, I have clients in the morning, teaching at night. My full-time job was that I owned a business. Now I'm back to having a full-time job someplace else, and I teach and train in the morning and at night.
hmm. But do you do that
So
because you have to or because you want to?
both. There's been certain times of my life where I've had to do it. Then there's certain times in my life that I do it because I want to do it.
Mm,
But I feel as though I may not have given it up during those times for the just in case I need it.
mm,
I want to keep the train rolling.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I have always been one, like if I didn't want to live at home, I had to figure it the fuck out as to how much money I needed to live because I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to live with my parents at all. Do you know what I mean? So there's this level of, okay, I'm going to help you a little bit, but then you need to figure it the fuck out or come
Yeah,
home.
yeah. You're giving them a little bit of a pass. Like, okay,
Yes,
this is
yes,
your one time get out of jail
yes.
free card, but next
Kind
time
of,
you got to
yeah, yeah.
figure it out. Yeah.
How about you
I
guys?
think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
If I
Um,
that's
am
the
and
concept.
here's the other thing, if I am in a financial position to do that, I
right.
am not going to put my financial
Mm.
health at risk to
Yeah.
do that. But if
Amen.
I have money that is not allocated to anything else and it's
Yes.
just sitting there, which has not been the majority of my life, but
Yeah.
there have been
Right.
times that I could afford that, I would do that. But I would not put myself into debt to afford them to live on their own just because they don't want to come home.
Yeah.
or want to come live with me, I should say. Sorry, what about you guys?
Go
I
ahead,
think that's
Kristen.
the whole concept of open nesting. So it's kind of what you just described is like, if you need a respite, I'm here, whether it's financially or a home. Um, it's just that open policy, not like my parents said, and I've said this before, don't come to us for anything. You're
Mm,
out, don't come to us for anything. I don't want to be that to my children, right? But
Hmm.
I also I've never been, until I got this job that I got 4 years ago, I've never been in financially secure. Never. I've always had like lived paycheck to paycheck. So
mhm.
I couldn't afford to, and I didn't have 3 jobs. I wasn't willing to do that. I didn't have the energy for that.
I
Um,
know, right?
no way. But so
But
therefore, for
yeah,
me, it
yeah.
would be
I
the
mean, it's not like I was working first and second shift. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
it
still
is
though, it's a lot. So,
I teach class or I have a clients or something just because, when you teach class, it's a free workout. You get a
well,
free
right,
membership, you get a little extra money and,
money.
and it's so it definitely serves more than just the purpose of a second paycheck.
mm,
Yeah, I feel like now, like I raised my kids on such a tight budget, and
mhm.
in particular, my daughter was like used to worry about money. And I think I was always worried about money. Always,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
almost lost my house, kind of worried about money. Um, and now that I'm in a position to help my son, and listen, when he moved out, and then there were three of them in the condo, and he broke up with a girlfriend. I was like, well, why can't you stay with the other roommate? And it turned out because he was cheating on Aaron's girl. So that was a no-go. Like the
No,
poor
that
Yeah.
kid,
wasn't gonna work.
he went through the mill, and I was like, please come home. Like he was just a complete
Yeah.
and
Yeah, of
total emotional
course.
mess. And I was like,
Yeah.
I am not throwing my child out on the street when this
No.
terrible
No.
thing has just happened to him. But it's a year later. He's good. He's, moved on and seems good. But I still don't want to give him money. I just want to give him the resources. Like you said, Deb, like, okay, do you want to be an electrician? Do you want to be a plumber? Or do you want to manage the hardware store? Pick it, because
Yeah.
that's what you need to do. One of those
Hmm.
to support,
Hmm.
or, like talk to one of your boys. But, he has lots of friends at work,
Yeah.
with one of them eventually, like that's,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, yeah. What
I
about you,
think there's
Deb?
also a huge difference between a child that just graduated and a child who's lived on their own and then comes back because something happened,
Yes. Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
like they lost their job or whatever. I think there's much different dynamic. So, like this stage of my life right now, no, I would not want my children who are 31 and 28 coming back here.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
because,
I
like,
gotta, yeah, but I moved back in with my parents when I was 32 with a toddler in tow. I was
Well,
going
right,
through a divorce. I had zero money. I had nowhere to go. And that
yeah.
might still
right,
happen to us. Our kids might end up
right.
with
I
their
mean, I would
children
take
needing
them
a place to
in,
go.
Yeah.
but I think, if you asked your parents, of course I would take them in. But I think if you asked your parents if they could wave a magic wand, would
Mm,
they have wanted to have to do that? The answer is probably no.
no. Yeah.
My dad would
Your
say
parents are
yes. My
different
mother would
though.
say no.
Yeah. George, everybody move in with George.
Yeah, I
Dad
mean,
would be like,
as
yeah,
that was
of
coming out of
course.
my mouth, I'm thinking, okay, hold on a second. Debbie's parents are different than anybody else on
They
the planet.
are.
So
So,
they probably were, but yeah, you're right. Sandy would have been like, fuck no. George would have
Yeah.
been, come, come. George would have
Yeah.
driven, gone to get you and packed your
Yeah, for
bags and
sure.
driven the U-Haul for you.
And I mean, my
Um,
parents had, when my brother was 30, diagnosed with cancer, going through a divorce. They took him in, they took care of him. When I was 32 and in the throes of my addiction and getting a divorce and no money and lots of drama, they took me back. They took me in. It wasn't even it was like, this is your home, come home. And with my child in tow.
Yeah.
And then,
Again, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
yeah.
Would it be ideal for, would I be like, "Woo, come on." No. Would I be throwing a ticker tape parade as they came down the street? No. But would I do it? Of course I would do it.
I don't know. I feel like when our kids have, you always hear like, oh, grandchildren are so different. Like that's a different type of love. I wonder if because the grandchildren, or with Hunter anyways, was in tow, they were more like, yes, come here, we'll take care
Oh, I
of
see.
you and him or whatever. But if Hunter wasn't in tow, I don't know. They might have been more like, you got to figure this out. You're an adult.
Did your
No, they
Maybe
parents
wouldn't have.
take in, was it Greg or it was Greg with the
it was Greg.
kids? With
Yeah.
the boys?
Well, he was going through a divorce and he was so ill that they
Yeah.
they would come over and visit him, but they didn't live there with him
Okay.
at my
Okay.
parents. And that was very temporary as well until he kind of get back on his feet. But yeah, I mean, I ideally there'll come a time where I have a larger place and you know my child and my grandchildren will always have a place to lay their head,
Mm.
and it'll happen, but it's different. What we're talking about is different than if your kid is in a crisis situation or,
Hmm.
it's more like, all right, they're home from college, they're working, they just don't necessarily have the drive to be out on their own, which I don't know. With me, I couldn't wait to be out on my own.
Oh,
Me
I
too.
was like, I want my own space. And I got along great with my parents, but I was like, I want to decorate my own place. I want to have my own little
Yeah.
apartment.
yeah.
So it's a matter of don't let your kid take advantage of
Yeah.
it, but be there to help them in
Help
their
them.
time of need.
It's definitely a blurred line,
Hmm.
right? Because there's so many other things at play, but um
And I think
yeah,
significant others that are not the children's father, you know, it makes
not
it
comfortable.
gray area. Like
Yeah,
you
really
know,
gray.
I don't, one of the things I loved about my ex-boyfriend is he was a great dad and he put his kids first, just like I did. But I'll tell you what, we were different parents. And
Yeah.
we were
Yeah, so
not
like
going to
mixing
live
that, I mean, so
together. It was
there's
a
yeah, so there
mess.
was definitely a reason why you didn't mix that.
No, it
But
was, I mean,
yeah.
whatever. And all the kids are great, but like I think I can, I could feel myself loving a stepchild, but, and no offense to those stepchildren, but my children come first. And the reverse goes for him, like whatever. He would get irritated at me the way I parented my kids or
Right. So
whatever.
here's the thing. Can you guys hear my dog barking in the background?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh, good. So here's the thing, and maybe I think I can ask Debbie this. It's like, okay, if Kevin had children, right? Would you feel the same open door policy to his kids? Like you know what I mean?
It depends.
I gotta tell you that I don't know.
No, it's
I
just
don't know. I mean,
The
like
answer would be no.
I if he had children, like, and I was really close, like I've never had a daughter. Like if he maybe had a
Yeah,
daughter that I was close with, I might
mm,
love that. If there was a mini Bone Malone running around, not so much.
right,
One
exactly.
is enough. Thank you very
Right.
much.
Like
I'll
I have
tell
said,
you.
okay, like if it, I have said that's great. Like they can move in here, then I'll go get an apartment. We can have conjugal visits because that would ne I no. Mm-mm.
It's hard. I've dated guys who have had children, and I can say that, I mean, granted, they were younger and stuff, it would have been really difficult. It would have been because not only you have somebody else's child, and they've been brought up differently than you're bringing up your kids, but you have their mother
Yeah.
that comes in the picture.
Okay.
So
Well, we are
listen,
running
I
out of
don't
time.
take
We
for
do not have
granted
time to tackle
I
that
know,
right now.
I,
Good God. But
it's
it's
not lost
true.
on me that I have a pretty ideal situation here.
Yeah.
No
Maybe
kids, no
Bone
ex.
Malone.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. One is
What about a
enough.
female Bone Malone? You could have gotten that.
Well, I know, but whatever. It isn't happening,
Yeah.
but I
I
I know
loved
when
my
Hunter dates somebody, I get super attached because I feel like, oh, I've got a girl I can go do fun girly
Hmm.
things with, and that I always
so
get my heart broken because the relationships don't work, and I get really sad. But
I
anyways,
Me
I'm
have
too,
a
tucking
Hunter.
daughter,
away. Yeah,
and I loved my son's ex-girlfriend like she was my own. Like
yeah,
I would look at her with such love, like
yeah,
just and
Right, but having them live with you, or is
and
it
when she lived
is
with me, I did. I did. I was like, I just love this child. I don't know what it was, but she was,
good for you guys.
yeah, she, but my ex-boyfriend's children, I adored them. They were good children, but I didn't forge the same bond
Yeah.
that I did with Victoria. It was different. So,
well, let me just before I wrap this up, I
Well,
know we have to
well,
wrap it up,
well.
yeah, we
but
gotta wrap it up.
think about it. Victoria didn't have a relationship with her mom,
No,
did
broke
she?
my heart.
So she connected with you. Those kids did, and that
Right,
made it
they had
different.
good
I think the
parents.
kids, right, like the ones that the girl, whatever woman who didn't have a relationship with a mother and that comes into a mother-in-law situation, the same with you and Lorraine,
Yeah,
there's a special connection there.
yeah,
But none of my mother-in-laws are gonna, I love Joan Malone to death and Carol Miller, but my mom is still my number one. Like there's that bond. And Joan won't connect with me the way she connects with her daughter. It's just that's just how it is. So that's I think why you were so connected with her. And
yeah.
it's really sad because when the kids break up and you're that close
Hmm.
and somebody that you love hurt your son,
Oh,
there's a lot of mixed emotions there. It's a lot.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
been there once before with Hunter's high school girlfriend. I loved her so much. She ripped his heart out. And it wasn't anybody's fault. It was like they're kids and they go through breakups and
Yeah,
that's what happens.
right.
But I learned this. Hunter's seeing somebody right now, and I've been told multiple times, just
Wait a
space,
minute. All right, this is
space.
another story. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was only allowed to ask a certain amount of questions the
Three
first
que
time I met
three
her.
questions, make them good, not multi-level.
Yep.
One.
And guess what I
Oh,
asked her? I was so nervous because we were all at dinner together. And I was so nervous that I was gonna step over a boundary. I asked her because she lives on her own. And I
oh.
said, how do you
Oh my
eat?
God. How do you eat? Not do
Standing
you
up
cook? Do you
the
like to
kitchen
cook?
sink.
How do you
Which is
eat?
what I meant to, that's the question that I had on my mind. Like, so do you cook for yourself? Like how, what came out of this mouth was, how do you eat? And she looked at me, she goes, with my mouth? Like, and she was like, what kind of questions? And I'm like, all right, I'm shutting it down. No more. I'm too
Mm.
nervous.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I'm gonna ask
interesting
more
questions.
questions
I'd
offline.
love to
Yes.
hear. And I need to do a little plug at the end of each of our shows for um deblawlessmiller.com. My book is one period, little period, pill period, one little pill. And it's available on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. And I am available for speaking engagements if anybody wants to hear my story of recovery from addiction into the world lifestyle of recovery and living life on life's terms without being able to take a drink or a drug. I'm here to share my experience, strength, and hope with anybody that needs to hear it.
Amen, sis. Amen.
Mhm.
Um, Share the show. You listen and you like, please share the show. We are on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you subscribe to your
Apple
podcasts.
Podcast.
Apple, excuse me. Um, if you have some feedback, you can always message any of us on social media, or we also have a email address, rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. We would love to hear from all of you. And I'd love to hear, what people are doing or their opinions on open nesting. I think this is sort of, this is really a great conversation, which, by the way, I feel like this topic, most of our topics, are definitely rooted in community and a village and things like that. But I think this is really one of those things that you could really lean on the people in your village, in your circle to help through, help each other through. It's not linear by any stretch. It's not black and white by any stretch. And I think the more that we have these kinds of conversations and open it up to all different scenarios, I think it makes us all feel like we're not alone.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. All right, my
Bye,
loves. Until
girls.
Okay,
next
love
time.
you.
Bye,
Namaste.
girls. Love you all.
Love you.
Bye.